The gods speak in riddles, their voices found not in the noise of the city but in the quiet, rustling leaves, rising steam. For King Laius of Thebes, the divine brought not comfort, but a chilling prophecy. This prophecy began with a crime Laius committed long ago, a betrayal of hospitality, a sin the gods would not forgive. Laius, once a guest in King Pelops' court, abducted and assaulted Pelops' son Chrysippus. Pelops cursed Laius one day, Laius' own son would destroy him. This curse followed Laius back to Thebes, shadowing his reign and marriage to Jocasta. For years Laius and Jocasta remained childless, perhaps hoping to escape fate. But a king needs an heir, and pressure mounted. Was their line cursed? Would Thebes fall? Laius was torn between fear and duty. He could not escape his past, nor ignore his present. Desperate, he sought answers from the oracle at Delphi. The shadow of Pelops' curse loomed over every decision. The gods, patient and relentless, waited. Laius' hope for peace was fragile, built on denial. The absence of a child became a source of anxiety. Thebes needed a future, but Laius feared what that future might bring. The story of Oedipus began with Laius' own choices. The seed of tragedy was planted by the father, not the son. Now, Laius would seek the words of Apollo, hoping for clarity, but dreading what he might hear. The journey to Delphi would decide the fate of a king, a family, and a city. The gods' riddle was about to unfold. Delphi, the world's sacred heart, awaited Laius with incense and dread. He asked the oracle if he and Jocasta would have a son. The Pythia, in trance, spoke with Apollo's voice, not of hope, but doom. "You are fated to have a son," the oracle declared, "but he will kill you and marry his mother, Jocasta. He will bring ruin to your house and kingdom." This was not a warning but a sentence. Laius' last hope shattered. His heir would be his murderer. The prophecy was a perfect trap, absolute, inescapable. Laius stumbled from the temple, the words echoing in his mind. He was powerless before the gods' decree. How could he return to Jocasta, knowing the horror that awaited? The journey home was a descent into personal hell. Every step brought him closer to the prophecy's fulfillment. Laius, once a king, was now a puppet of fate. The gods had spoken, his doom was sealed. The weight of destiny pressed upon him. He could not see a way out. The prophecy was a storm cloud, ever present. Laius' fear grew with every passing day. Thebes awaited his return, but he brought only darkness. The oracle's words would haunt every choice he made. The gods had set their trap and Laius was caught. The fate of Thebes hung in the balance. Laius returned to Thebes, haunted and broken. He avoided Jocasta, hoping to outwit fate by denying a son. But the gods' will prevailed. Jocasta conceived. Their joy turned to dread. The prophecy was alive in their child. How could they love a son destined to destroy them? The baby was born, a healthy boy but seen as a monster in waiting. In terror, they decided the child must die. They pierced his ankles, marking him as cursed. A trusted shepherd was ordered. Take the infant to Mount Tithon and leave him to die. It was a desperate, horrific act, sacrificed to prevent a greater horror. Laius and Jocasta hoped to erase the prophecy with this crime. The child's fate was sealed by fear, not love. The royal couple's hands were stained by their choice. They believed this was the only way. The prophecy seemed averted, but at a terrible cost. The gods watched, patient as ever. The child's cries faded into the mountain wind. Laius and Jocasta mourned in secret. Guilt, their only companion. Thebes remained unaware of the darkness at its heart. The tragedy was only beginning. The shepherd climbed Mount Tithon, infant in arms, torn by duty and conscience. He saw the wounds on the child's ankles, innocence marked by cruelty. Unable to abandon the baby, he defied his orders. Fate intervened. Another shepherd from Corinth appeared. The Theban shepherd, desperate, handed over the child, hiding his royal origin. The Corinthian shepherd saw hope for his own childless king and queen. He took the infant, unbound his feet, and named him Oedipus, swollen foot. The child was brought to Corinth, presented as a gift to King Polybus and Queen Merope. Laius and Jocasta believed their son dead, but he was alive, his destiny redirected. The act of mercy on the mountain would have consequences no one could foresee. Oedipus grew up far from Thebes, unaware of his true heritage. The curse was not broken, only delayed. The gods' design continued, unseen. The shepherd's compassion set the tragedy on a new path. The child's fate was now entwined with two kingdoms. The prophecy's shadow stretched across the years. Oedipus's journey had only just begun. The mountain kept its secret, but not forever. The threads of fate tightened. The story of Thebes and Corinth was now bound together. The gods' patience would soon be rewarded. The child's survival was the prophecy's silent promise. The tragedy was far from over. The mountain's silence hid a storm to come. In Thebes, Laius and Jocasta mourned in secret, believing their son gone and the prophecy averted. They ruled in uneasy peace, guilt their constant shadow. The world saw a childless royal couple, only they knew the truth. Life resumed, the memory of their crime fading with time. The curse seemed silenced, but it was only sleeping. In Corinth, Oedipus grew up as a beloved prince, unaware of his origins. He was strong, intelligent, and cherished by Polybus and Merope. The shadow of Thebes lay hidden in his blood. Secrets, however, do not stay buried. Fate's threads remained unbroken, stretched across years and kingdoms. The peace Laius and Jocasta bought was an illusion. The gods had not been cheated, only delayed. Oedipus's life was a pause in the tragedy, not its end. The prophecy waited, patient as ever. The child meant to die had lived. The stage was set for destiny's return. Thebes and Corinth were linked by a secret. The gods' design was not yet complete. The final act was approaching. The past would not stay buried. In Corinth, a drunken taunt shattered Oedipus's peace. He was not Polybus's true son. Doubt consumed him. He sought the truth at Delphi. The oracle did not answer his question but gave a new prophecy. You are fated to kill your father and marry your mother. Horrified, Oedipus fled Corinth, desperate to escape his destiny. He believed Polybus and Merope were his parents and vowed never to return. Every step away from Corinth brought him closer to Thebes, and to the fate he feared. Oedipus wandered Greece, a self-exile running from a prophecy he could not understand. He thought he was choosing his own path, but was walking straight into the gods' trap. The crossroads of fate awaited him. His flight was the very act that would fulfill the oracle's words. The gods' design was unfolding. Oedipus's journey was a spiral toward disaster. The prophecy's grip tightened with every mile. The past and future were about to collide. Oedipus's search for truth would lead to ruin. The trap was set long before he was born. The crossroads would decide everything. Destiny was inescapable. As Oedipus fled, Thebes faced a new terror, the Sphinx. Laius, seeking answers, set out for Delphi, unaware he was heading toward his doom. On a narrow road at Phocis, Laius's chariot met Oedipus, a stranger to him. Pride and impatience sparked a deadly quarrel. Insults flew, tempers flared, and violence erupted. Oedipus, provoked and enraged, killed Laius and his attendants, sparing only one survivor. Neither knew the other's identity. Father and son, locked in fatal ignorance. The prophecy was fulfilled. The son had killed the father. The god's trap had sprung. The past Laius tried to bury returned in blood. Oedipus continued on, unaware of his crime. Thebes had lost its king. Fate had claimed its due. The crossroads became the scene of destiny's triumph. The cycle of tragedy spun on. The survivor carried news back to Thebes. The city would soon be plunged into deeper chaos. The god's design was relentless. The tragedy's next act was about to begin. The lone survivor reported Laius's death, blaming bandits, not a single traveler. Thebes mourned, but the Sphinx's riddle still strangled the city. Into this chaos came Oedipus, unaware of his true identity. He solved the Sphinx's riddle. Man, crawling, walking, then with a cane. The Sphinx perished. Thebes was saved. Grateful, the city offered Oedipus the throne and Jocasta's hand. Oedipus became king, marrying his own mother, fulfilling the second part of the prophecy. The kingdom rejoiced, blind to the horror at its heart. Oedipus and Jocasta ruled, had 4 children, and Thebes prospered. The murder of Laius remained unsolved, attributed to Thebes, but the truth could not stay hidden. The gods were not finished with the house of Laius. A plague descended, a sign of spiritual sickness. The final unraveling was at hand. The sins of the father would soon destroy the son. The city's peace was an illusion. The gods' justice was coming. The tragedy neared its end. The story of Laius is more than a king's fall. It's a meditation on fate and free will. Every attempt to escape destiny only ensured its fulfillment. Laius's choices became the mechanism of his doom. His death set the stage for Oedipus's own tragic journey. The investigation of Laius's murder would reveal horrors beyond any plague. These ancient themes echo through myth and history. Are we masters of our fate, or actors in a script already written? The fall of Laius is just one chapter in a vast saga of gods, heroes, and monsters. These stories are mirrors, reflecting our own hopes and fears. Join us as we explore the timeless truths hidden in these ancient tales. Subscribe and journey deeper into the world of myth.